Hi everyone, my name is Alex Grant and I welcome you to another edition of Mic Drop. I'm always excited to share this time with you and for us to spend some time together reflecting on some helpful issue or topic that might improve our everyday life. Today I want to focus on the topic of I am in a relationship or I am with someone in denial. What do we mean by denial? We know that denial is one of several defense mechanisms, and defense mechanisms function like band-aids. Whenever we are experiencing pain or discomfort, they activate themselves within our system and they make it a little bit more manageable and make it a little bit more tolerable. But they're just a temporary solution. They are not a permanent solution to a wound or a pain that we might be suffering. So they may activate themselves initially to help us cope with a difficult situation, but they're not going to be a permanent solution. So when we're very familiar with the saying that states that denial is more than a river in Africa. And that means that definitely denial seems to be a lot more common than we realize. And one of the first things that I want us to ponder on is this biblical phrase that says that Jesus used to say that we shall know the truth and the truth shall set us free. What that means is that if truth has the capacity to set us free, denial or lying to ourselves can also make us slaves. It can enslave us to a notion that is distorted or that is inaccurate, that is not an accurate depiction of reality or the situation that we might be facing. One of the things that often happens is that we need to keep in mind is that we need to be vulnerable and we also need to be authentic in order to be able to bond, in able to be able to connect. And sometimes people in denial are actually disconnected because if being in connection or establishing a bond with something or with someone means that we're able to establish a deep connection of the soul. We are able to bond with other people, we're able to bond with ourselves, and we're also able to bond with our higher power or with God. But if we are disconnected from ourselves, it impedes or it makes more difficult for us to be able to connect with other people and with our higher power. So definitely people in denial might be suffering from a temporary disconnection from reality, so to speak. One of the things that we also need to realize is that no one is able to learn through somebody else's head. I mean, we can learn from each other's experiences, but at the end of the day, the bottom line establishes that each one of us is able to make decisions on our own, and we are the ones who are in the position of embracing a notion or dismissing it. People often feel a sense of responsibility for the situation of others, and we may find ourselves being particularly worried or stressed or anxious about the situation that other people may find themselves in. But at the end of the day, we cannot make decisions for those people that we see struggling to cope with their reality. At the end of the day, each one of us needs to make their own decisions, remembering that all that we can control in this life is what we think, what we feel, and what we decide to do. Some people, I learned this from a very dear friend, someone very close to my heart, a former boss of mine. May she rest in peace, Miss Diane Swan Wright. And she taught me that sometimes in the midst of difficulties, some people choose to change jobs, to change locations, to change their appearance, but they very seldom consider changing themselves on the inside. So sometimes it's very easy to focus on making external changes, but never really looking inwardly and being able to revise and reset ourselves internally. A person in denial is able to also drag along with him or herself other people around them. Because when someone is in denial and we buy into their false truth, then we too can be wrapped up in that false argument. We can be wrapped up in that distorted perception of reality. And one of the other things that often can be tied into a form of denial is building our whole identity around a chosen trauma. A chosen trauma might be an episode, a page of our life that was particularly significant, that may have been traumatizing to us, but sometimes we can use that as a crutch or as an excuse to justify our current behavior, and then say, because my parents were divorced, then this is the reason why I behave this certain way, or because I experienced a very traumatic form of abuse when I was a child or when I was a teenager, then this justifies why I continue as an adult to behave a certain way. We're not trying to dismiss or downplay traumatic experiences. We're not trying to dismiss them as insignificant, because they're not. But at the same time, we're trying to put them in perspective so that we don't fall in the trap of constructing our whole worldview and our whole disposition and attitude in relation to that specific episode of our lives, because we might continue to be stuck in the past, and that's one of the critical things that is often the onset of depression. We too also need to understand that we cannot make ourselves responsible for dragging someone out of their denial. Even if we want to, we can't plug our perception or our worldview onto somebody else's, like you plug in an SUB port, or a kind of like downloading from a drive, a portable drive, a piece of information onto somebody else's mind. We also need to understand that we can impact by us facing the truth, by us owning our truth, by us just by contrast, challenging that person's denial by saying, I understand you have this point of view, but consider this other perspective, or consider this other person's experience in the same situation, so that you may consider that there are more than one ways of handling or dealing with a particular circumstance or situation. So we have the possibility of challenging that point of view that might be presented to us, and we're able to then help that person to look at their situation from other angles or from other perspectives. Denial can also trap us in a roller coaster. It can also turn itself into a vicious cycle, that where we're kind of running on the wheel like a hamster, thinking that we're moving ahead, and instead we're actually stuck in one place. So at the end of the day, one of the things that we need to decide is, or understand, is that we can only change that which we believe, that we feel, or we decide, and all that we can do is, in the face of someone else, it might be a spouse, it might be a partner, it might be a friend or a relative, that we see living in a situation where maybe they're abusive, maybe they're engaging in self-destructive behaviors. Maybe they're very disruptive, or they seem to operate on a lot of anger and resentment. There might be situations where we might be in a relationship with someone who is stuck emotionally, professionally, spiritually, and we cannot put it upon ourselves to drag that person out of that situation. We can only serve to them as a mirror. We can only engage them lovingly, patiently, but also being very responsible only for what we think, feel, and decide, and allowing that person to then perhaps be confronted by reality, by us mirroring back to them other ways in which we can look at the same situation, allowing them or helping them to consider other perspectives, to consider other points of view, other angles in which they might be able to see or consider other alternatives of engaging the same situation that they find themselves in. So I just wanted you to consider the possibility that you may be in a relationship with someone who is in denial, but also that you may also have a very clear sense as to what is your role and what is your responsibility in that situation, and what isn't your role and your responsibility in that very same situation. For those of you who may want to explore this and other ideas in a counseling situation, feel free to contact me at country code 506, and the number is 61863941. Again, the number is country code 506, and the number is 61863941. It's on WhatsApp, and this video will remain posted here on my page on Instagram at @AlexGrant, or you may also see it reposted both on my Facebook as Alex Grant, Consejero Familiar y Motivador, and also on my YouTube page under Alex Grant. It's been great to share with you again. Thank you all for joining, for hanging out with me, and for sharing these videos with other people who you consider might benefit from this information. Have a great day, have a wonderful weekend, and see you again next week on Friday at noon EST, and on this edition, another edition of Mic Drop. Have a great day, and God bless.